So this is part 2 because my camera decided that it was going to die on me. So just continuing those setting boundaries in dating. So let's get it popping and let's get on to the last couple of points that I have. The next point that I have is respect your partner's boundaries too. Respect the other person's boundaries too. Just like you have boundaries, they're gonna have their own as well. And just like you wouldn't want yours to be disrespected, don't disrespect theirs as well. So just make sure that you're listening to them just as you would want someone to listen to you. And just as you wouldn't want to feel pressure to change or to pull back on your boundaries, don't expect them to do that either. And I've talked about this in a video before, but a lot of times we show up in our friendships or our relationships thinking first and foremost about ourselves, which is fine, but some of us stay there and we only think about ourselves. So we only think, I need this, you need to give me this. I want this, you need to give me that. I feel this, so you need to comfort that. But we don't think about it on the other side as, what does our partner need? What are they thinking? What are they wanting from us? What are they desiring? And how can I problem solve by giving myself and not just expecting someone to give to me all the time? So just make sure that you are also respecting your partner's boundaries as well, because you are not the only person in this relationship. If you were, you wouldn't have to have these conversations or set these boundaries, really. The biggest thing to remember is that mutual respect is key from both sides. That is key to a friendship, to a romantic relationship, to something casual. Respect across the board. That is the key. The next one is be flexible and adaptable. As I said early on, remember that sometimes things are gonna change. Your needs are gonna change, your wants are gonna change, so will those of your partners. Your boundaries might even change as well. So y'all want to regularly check in with each other just to see if adjustments are needed, to see if other solutions are needed, if other compromises are needed. So just making sure that y'all are having that open communication for when those changes may happen or do happen. Another part to that is be willing to compromise when necessary, but compromising appropriately. I know that people hate to talk about compromising relationships, but also, as I said early on, is that healthy relationships always involve some form of compromise. So if it's something that you know that you can meet your partner halfway in, then do that. Like, especially if this is somebody that you say that you care about, or somebody that you want to keep that relationship with or build that relationship with, or, you know, see where it goes or further pursue them, or whatever the case may be. Be willing to compromise appropriately. If you know that your partner is a person who values more communication, but you don't necessarily need that, see if there's a way that you can meet them halfway. If you know your partner values more face-to-face time, but you're okay with like being solo dolo and not really seeing each other that much, be willing to compromise to meet them halfway somewhere. That doesn't mean that, oh, let me make sure that I find time to spend with you every day or to talk to you every day. That could literally look like, let me plan out an hour each week where I know that I can get on FaceTime with you at the end of the day. Or let me prioritize a time per month that we can meet. Like, especially if you're exclusively dating and y'all know that y'all don't get a lot of face-to-face time with each other, you might need to actually plan out what are the days that y'all are going to see each other this month, depending on how your schedules are. If you know your partner values their space and their alone time and all of that, but you are a person who needs to be kind of up under them, be willing to meet them halfway and not expect them to always show up and be in your face all the time, because that's how you operate and that's what you want. Respect their boundary and just like, okay, cool, I know we usually hang out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday I'll be over, Tuesday I'll give you your space, Wednesday I'll be back, Thursday I'll give you your space, you know. So just be willing to find healthy compromises. And this is just not just in regards to communication or seeing each other. It could be whatever the case may be, depending on your relationship. And again, different relationships are going to look different, right? If you're more casual, those boundaries and those compromises might look different than, well, they will look different than someone who's in a more exclusive relationship, to those compromises and those boundaries. We made it to the last one, la última. The last one that I have is know when to walk away. Recognizing unhealthy patterns is very important. And if you have a partner, and this even goes in friendships as well, someone who repeatedly pushes your boundaries, it might be time for you to walk away. Someone who is repeatedly trying to get you to do things that you don't want to do, trying to force you to do things or go play or whatever the case may be, especially if they are having an effect on your mental and or physical being, it may be time to either walk away or reevaluate that situation. If someone is continually pushing a boundary that you have stated, hey, this is a boundary for me, especially if it's like, hey, this is a trigger for me, this is something that I just cannot deal with, it might be time to just walk away. Know that your mental well-being and your physical well-being is so important above all, and no connection is worth you getting beat down, whether that's physically or whether that's mentally, whether that's emotionally, and not being able to show up as your best self, because then you can't even be a good partner if you are not allowed the space to show up as your best self. I will also speak to the other side of this as well. As much as I really do push for that, like know when to walk away, also know the difference between you walking away because of a boundary and you walking away because it's an easy way out. Because what I see is a lot of people take that scapegoat, that easy way out in the guise of it being a boundary. Oh, they're pushing my boundary, they're making me talk about this and do that or whatever, when it's really they're just being tested in a way that they're not used to. And I'm not saying that your partner should be purposely testing you to get under your skin, but some people find out in relationships, whether it's a casual relationship or an exclusive relationship, that they are not emotionally available or not as emotionally intelligent as they may have thought they were, or they never even considered that. And so sometimes people run from certain conversations, from certain situations, because it's causing them to have to really show up or to really be seen. And that's speaking from a person who I've had times where I would get close to people, whether it is a relationship, like romantic type situation or whatever, or a friendship, and because I was so afraid of like truly like being seen, I'm still working on this right now, but it's like after being vulnerable with somebody, I'm like, oh, I can never talk to this person again. Like I can never talk to you again. I just gave you a piece of myself that I don't usually give people, a piece of myself that was a bit uncomfortable for me to give you. And for them, they're just like, oh, cool. I just learned more about Bobby. And for me, I'm just like, oh my God, I said too much. I can never talk to this person again. They gotta disappear, or I gotta disappear. And I have literally like pulled back from people because I've had more intimate conversations with them and because I was seen. And I'm not the type of person that's like, well, it's because they crossed my boundary. It was literally just because I was vulnerable and I felt some type of way about being vulnerable. Some of those situations it was warranted because those people didn't deserve that side of me. And some of those situations, like, you know, I was just not ready, like just not emotionally available. But I say that to say that there are some people who will feel like that and who will say, oh, it's because they made me have a hard conversation and I got anxious and that's a boundary for me because they triggered me, and so I broke it off. And it's just like, did they really trigger you or push you into a conversation that you really didn't want to have? Or is it because you didn't have the emotional wherewithal to show up or to be vulnerable and you got scared and you ran away? So I think that that's something that's also important to consider, of whether it was one versus the other. Because if you're just running away because you're emotionally unavailable, you need to fix that before you start diving into these relationships or even situationships with people. But if it's the other hand where it's like, no, they kept trying to get this out of me and squeeze this out of me and make me talk about this or make me do this or force me into this, then it's like, yeah, respect yourself, know when to walk away and let that person go. The biggest takeaway from this video is set those boundaries. In order for you to have a healthy and successful relationship, hate to say it, situationship, friendship, whatever the case may be, we're specifically talking on dating in this video, but in order for you to have that, you have to set healthy boundaries. And setting healthy boundaries is all about knowing your needs and your values, communicating those needs and values early, and respecting those needs of your own as well as your partner. When both of y'all are on the same page, it sets the tone for trust, it sets the tone for respect, and it sets the tone for a mutual understanding, which sets the tone for a successful relationship, a fulfilling relationship, no matter what stage it is. So I just say, if you are a person who are kind of struggling with that, whether it's in your friendship, specifically we're speaking to dating in this video, or whatever the case may be, like, watch this video, take some notes, do some research into what are some boundaries that you may need to think about or evaluate. Think about what your needs are. Think about what it is that you value out of a connection with another person, specifically when it comes to dating. Like, what are those things that are like, these are my needs, these are my non-negotiables, and these are things that I'm willing to compromise. And that's how you should be moving. If you notice that people are meeting or not meeting your needs, that should help you better understand whether this is a person that you want to entertain or not entertain, especially if you're considering dating someone seriously. Honestly, I know the dating scene can be a little crazy at sometimes. It can feel a little bit overwhelming, but it's like, you can't just go out here all willy-nilly, right? For some people that might work. For most of us, it doesn't work, because it's not just black and white. It's not just yes or no. There are all these gray areas. And if you don't first know yourself, know your boundaries, know your values, know what it is that you stand for and what it is that you want, you will get out there and you will get played every single time. You will play yourself every single time. So whether you are a person who is deep into the throes of dating, but you haven't had time or taken the time to sit back and evaluate what your values and your boundaries and your needs are, or you're a person that's hopping into it after a long period of time of not being on the dating scene, or after a long period of time of being in a relationship, know that this is where your start is, right? And whether that means you got to sit and journal it, whether it means you got to put it in your notes app, whether it means you got to have a come to Jesus moment or a come to self moment, like, just know that this is your first step into a successful dating scene. Because people out here will play. They will play all over your emotions. They will play all over your little boundaries if you don't set them for real, if you don't stand in them for real. And sometimes they might not even do it on purpose. They just do it because it's like, well, you seem okay with it, and they go on about their business. So it's really important to make sure that you know what you want, know what you're looking for, know what you value, know what you need, and then also stand to that, stand strongly to that, so that you can value yourself, so that you can show up for yourself in these spaces. But then also understand that other people have their own too, and we can't be mad because they're standing their ground on theirs as well. So I'm gonna leave it on that. Es tu prima favorita, Bobby here. Thank you for joining me today in the Cousins Corner. And please make sure to like, to comment, to subscribe. Drop your comments below if you feel like there are any other boundaries that need to be shared, that need to be set, that are important for you, that worked for you. Share that in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.